Hello friends, thank you for joining me for another video. Today I want to continue on with my topic of eating disorders. Specifically, I'm going to get into some characteristics of one of the most common eating disorders, which is binge eating disorder. And I'm also going to go through several types that are categorized under other specified feeding and eating disorders. But before I do that, I want to discuss why I won't get off this topic on eating disorders. And it's not just because there's a lot of material to cover. See, as a naturopathic doctor and functional medicine practitioner, I specialize in women's health, digestive health, and mood support. And you might be wondering why I'm not posting on a more flashy subject that's trending, such as anxiety or thyroid disorder. To be fair, I actually do have posts on those topics. But the reason I'm paying so much attention right now to eating disorders is exactly that reason. They're not getting enough attention. They're not a topic that many people are seeking out. In fact, maybe one of the most popular posts about food is how to stop food addiction. And I talked about why that's an issue and why it hasn't actually been labeled a category of mental health disorders in the Diagnostic Statistic Manual 5. So it isn't technically an eating disorder or a substance use disorder. It's just kind of assumed that people that are having problems with food have a quote unquote addiction. Now, I'm not going to roll into that because I've already covered that extensively in previous videos and articles. And as always, if you want information on how to link to the other articles, there will be links in the video description. So it makes sense why this isn't a popular topic, especially in today's diet culture and wellness culture, because, well, first of all, it can be scary. And second of all, it's kind of tempting to brush behaviors under the rug that one intuitively feels may not be fully nourishing them, because this almost gets acceptance in diet and wellness culture. So although people might have an inkling that perhaps what they're doing or not doing with their food is not optimal for them, but it's something that actually helps them fit in the wellness space or with whatever their current, friends or dietary dry type is doing at that time. So this leads to the second issue with the topic of eating disorders. It's the contentious food debates about what is and what isn't the quote unquote good or right food to eat at the current time. And there's certainly a lot of social pressure to eat a certain way or look a certain way, or if it's not for looks or to fit in, maybe for fear of one's health. It's definitely a topic that is very controversial. In fact, in the last 15 more years that I've been practicing, I can count on a hand how many clients start out with me feeling that their relationship with their food choices and their body is balanced and peaceful. Thankfully, most eventually can get there after we've done some work together, but they don't come out starting out that way. Many people are stuck in this space. And rather than allowing freedom and tolerance to different ways for people to nurture themselves based on their own preferences, their needs, their culture, and of course, their own health and genetics, I think a lot of nutritional influencers are preaching their way is the way for all of us. And similar to religious fever, wellness experts are throwing out fear bombs on the negative health consequences if their dietary rules aren't followed, and giving promises of healing to all bodily symptoms if they are. And in fairness, many are doing this out of their own belief and good intentions. I know I did it in the past before I learned about health at every size and saw the damage that diets were doing to my clients, both physically and emotionally, and not just with weight recycling, but on a relational level and on their relationship with themselves and with others. The problem is, no matter what diet that we hope is going to be our salvation this time, to finally make it to that last 5 pounds that we're going to lose, or to lose weight for once and good, for once and for all and for good, there's too many quote unquote ways to do it. And the reason no one way is working is because everybody's different, right? So here's the thing. I just think, although we don't have enough attention to eating disorders, we have way too much attention on food morality in our culture. To eat or not to eat is becoming such a huge question. And this natural urge is totally being rationalized and cerebralized to the point where people have no clue if they should eat when they're hungry or not. I mean, every other urge, we kind of don't question. If we have to pee, we go to the bathroom. If we have to breathe, we breathe. We don't question if it's been too long since our last breath. If we're thirsty, we seek out hydration. If we have to go number two, well, we go. So the problem is, if someone's been steeped in diet and wellness culture long enough, if they're hungry and they want to eat, there's a mental gymnastics torment or a ping pong game without rackets that goes on with inside their head. And the scene usually goes something like this, at least with my clients. Someone asks the person if they want to go out to eat. And if that's not the case and they're not in an office, they may get a thought while they're working at home that they're feeling a nudge for hunger. Okay, this gets their attention. And honestly, they get a little bit peeved, right? There's a long pause with a deep contemplation if one should be hungry at this time. They rationally review their schedule and time frame from their last meal, and they quickly calculate if it's correct to follow their body's pleading for the food. Next, there's a torturous brain scan of if it's socially or ethically acceptable to eat at this particular time. After all, isn't their family or their diet office or their office actually going through this new fast trend or this particular diet of timing? So in the long, as if we roll along, if proper time is allotted and has been achieved to one's satisfaction, they can eat. But then there's a torment of deciding what to eat and how to eat it and how to do it so that they won't feel shame or regret afterwards. See, food's supposed to be a source of medicine and of pleasure, not a source of stress. So this is why I keep bringing up eating disorders. I'm concerned that health marketers and influencers have taken it maybe too far. And most people do know what to eat that's healthy. They know about vegetables and fruits and whole foods at this point. The problem isn't that they're not eating it or even that they want to. It's either access or because they're restricting themselves so much that all the other foods that appear pleasurable just look more inviting because they're not in tune with who or what their body really needs. So what ends up happening is people end up either restricting more and then making up for that with binging later on. And rather than receiving intervention at the start of this disordered dietary pattern, the wellness space might actually be contributing or promoting some of this behavior as actually healthy. And my concern, again, if not scrutinized, is that this could be perpetuating and fueling health anxiety, false anxiety, and eating disorders. And I want to help combat this. So I'm going to continue on with my posts and my information on eating disorders. And I want to remind you that you might look around and think that maybe the health space is doing people's favors because maybe you might have some weight biases yourself and you see a lot of people that are quote unquote overweight or of larger body sizes. May I remind you that many people with an eating disorder don't look like they have one, that there's one category and maybe a few others where there's actually a correlation to lower body sizes. The rest of them can look normal or have larger body sizes. So looks can be deceiving, but the mental anguish and suffering and the physical effects are still there. Okay, so let's talk about binge eating disorder. So according to Anxiety and Depression Association of America, binge eating disorder is a severe, life-threatening, and treatable eating disorder characterized by recurrent episodes of eating large quantities of foods, often very quickly and to the point of discomfort. There's a feeling of a loss of control during the binge. People experience shame, distress, or guilt afterwards. And they aren't using unhealthy compensatory measures like purging to counter the binge eating. So it's not the same as binge and purging disorder, right? Or bulimia nervosa. It's one of the newest eating disorders formally recognized in the DSM-5. Before this, binge eating disorder was a subtype of eating disorders not otherwise specified, okay? So this change is important because now there's more attention to it and it can be covered by insurance for people that that's important to. So I do list some of the criteria, but that's the basis of binge eating disorder. And it isn't associated again with inappropriate compensatory behavior. So if you want to check out the signs and symptoms of binge eating disorder, if this sounds like something you or someone you know is struggling, make sure that you, again, check out in the video description the resources and the link to the accompanying article. Now, there's another subcategory of eating disorders called other specified feeding or eating disorders. And this category includes those with significant eating disorders, but who don't meet all the current classifications in those main categories. And this is important. Now, some people consider this a catch-all classification, and it was viewed as less serious, but it is as life-threatening as other eating disorders. So you want to read this carefully, or actually when you go through and watch this and listen to this carefully, because many of it can be missed in our diet culture world. So some examples of eating disorders in this section include atypical anorexia nervosa. That's where someone has all the criteria for anorexia, means they're severely limiting food intake, they're afraid of their body and gaining weight, they're counting calories, they might be excessively exercising, even purging, but they look normal, they have a normal body size, and they don't have significant weight loss. Again, this is why I think it's so important that you can't judge if someone has an eating disorder by how they look. There's binge eating disorder, where they meet all the criteria of binge eating disorder, except it's at a lower frequency. So it's less than 3 months, which is the amount of time for binge eating disorder to be actually diagnosed. There's bulimia nervosa of less frequency and a limited duration that's also under this category. And that's all the criteria of bulimia nervosa, but they either, the binge eating or the inappropriate compensatory behavior occurs at a lower frequency and for less than 3 months. 3 months is kind of the mark for the actual diagnosis. There's purging disorder, where people will purge to influence their weight or their shape, but they're not binge eating. And then there's night eating syndrome, where people have recurrent episodes of night eating. They either awaken from sleep and eat, or do excessive consumption in the evening meal. And it's not better explained by environment influences or social norms. If you want more information, again, check out the link in the video description to the accompanying article, and I offer several resources and references there. So our culture's relationship with food overall, I feel, is very dysfunctional, and I want to call it out. And I know it's controversial to do so, and many people think that maybe I should be focusing more on, what's healthy to eat and how to use food as medicine. And I think there's enough out there, but I think what we're not focusing out right now is what a healthy relationship with food is and what a healthy relationship with our bodies look like, because so many people are trapped in what isn't. So it's often unnoticed. Many people are suffering with eating disorder behaviors because it's socially accepted, it's common, and they don't look like they have it. You can't tell just by looking at someone. Many people that I work with, especially in the health space, are under constant stress and worry around everything that goes in their mouth and what exercise they did or didn't do, at least when they first start out with me. And I think that we deserve more from our life than to worry about this, because I do believe that food is medicine. I also think that food is more than that. I think it's not just a hodgepodge of nutrients that are epigenetic modulators to enhance or hinder brain and body health. Right? Food does talk to our genes and does change the way our body functions for better or worse. But it's also a source of pleasure, reward, cultural identity. It promotes bonding and relationships. These latter things, I don't think should be belittled or blotted out. I think we need to embrace them because the mind-body connection is just as powerful in modulating our physical and mental health as macronutrients. And I have seen personally major clients, my clients have major turnarounds when they stop focusing on dietary rights and wrongs and place attention what is on truly nourishing to them and their body. Not only did they get healthier, but their lives and their moods improved. So I'm hoping that the series is going to help people pause to disentangle from their dysfunctional relationship with diet and wellness culture and to move into a peaceful relationship with their bodies and themselves. Eating disorders of all types are fatal, they're insidious, and unless they result in extreme changes in appearance or behavior, they're too often unrecognized and even dangerously reinforced. And I think it's time to stop this. What do you think? So if you're in agreement with me, even if you're not in agreement with me, please do comment and share this information with other people so that it gets out there. Make sure you check out the references in the accompanying article. And also I will have resources available if you are interested in learning more about how I work, about mind-body practices, as well as some classes that I do on essential oils for both consumers and healthcare practitioners. All right, so thank you for joining with me. I will be back with more videos. We are ending this series pretty soon, so I will be going on to new topics. But again, stay tuned for the completion. And I'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day or evening. Take care.